We talk about this age-old cliche that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but who is training that eye?
Shadeism is someone with a darker complexion that gets less privileges than someone with a lighter complexion.
Shadeism is not being able to fit into society because of how dark you are.
Shadeism is the reason for division both inside and outside the African American race.
Colorism is very much connected to racism. I call them kissing cousins, if you will, because one is dependent upon the other, right? And so colorism, insofar as racism is a system that ultimately prioritizes people with power, in this situation, white people, people with white skin. Colorism is communities of color's attempt to re-inscribe and reinstitute racism amongst and between ourselves. And so it creates a spectrum of sorts, whereas racism and white supremacy is white, black on the ends of the spectrum. With colorism, it's light skin, dark skin. It's hard to pinpoint the history in a particular way. A lot of people point directly to Plantation America, and the way in which you recognize those who were enslaved simply was by their skin color. And so it was very simple to know who was free and who was not. If you were white, you were free. If you were black, you were enslaved. But of course, what we know also with the history of enslavement was a history of miscegenation, or that is the mixing of the races. And so when the races began to mix, it kind of created this kind of conundrum for society. How do we recognize people as free or enslaved when you've got people coming all shades in between? And so here we start seeing a whole bunch of laws and legal classifications about people's freedom based upon skin color. What ends up happening is that folks who are lighter skin, the presumption is that, you know, if somebody who comes fresh off the boat looks like me, somebody who's lighter than has European ancestry. And so in having European ancestry, the assumption or the presumption was that that person was of higher value, more human, more civilized. And so we start seeing value placed on people based upon the color of their skin. And so colorism really grows out of that kind of understanding about the value of people's being connected to their skin color.
What messages do we get about light-skinned and dark-skinned people?
That light-skinned people hold more power in this world, and that the dark-skinned people have to follow behind, and you have to try and be like us. Like, because we're light-skinned, we're what you have to be. You can't be black and be beautiful, and that's not right.
Colorism affects my community a lot. In Asian communities, being dark-skinned is not really favored. I guess in Asian society or Asian culture, dark-skinned people are more considered ugly, or not like pretty enough, not worth enough as like light-skinned people.
Back in middle school, I used to be called dark-skinned and ugly and all this nonsense, and it used to like really hurt my pride and just hurt. I would look in the mirror every day and like, yeah, I'm so dark-skinned and ugly.
I wanted to have straight hair and light skin and just be skinnier or not as curvy as I appear or whatever. And I think that was because of society and the fact that to be beautiful, you had to be light skinned and have straight hair and have blue eyes.
That's just the idea we're given, that you have to be light to be beautiful.
We are bombarded by images every day that speak to colorism, that affirm colorism, that facilitate colorism, even without people even having to say the words dark skin or light skin or colorism, you know, so that if you as a young girl, a woman, You turn on the TV, you open up a magazine, you go to a movie, and all you continue to see are women who look nothing like you, who are put in positions of beauty and power and attractiveness. You're learning something from that. You don't put black women, dark-skinned women, black people in the media. We're going to presume that they're not worthy to be there, or they're not good enough to be there, right? So if you don't have any black newscasters, oh, well, black people must not be good at casting the news, right? We make those assumptions. But then if you only put out certain images of us, we're going to make assumptions about who we are. The large majority of us must be this way if these are the only images that we see. So it's almost like you can't win for losing.
My sister and I, who's lighter, she's my half sister, she's lighter than me. We both went to the park. This dude walks over, this dark-skinned person, darker than me, and he walks over and he's talking to me. He's like, "What's your name?" And I told him my name, and he was trying to get my number, and I was just like, I'm not interested, and I just really didn't want to be bothered. And he said, and I quote, "It's always the dark-skinned girls." And I just because now I've already known about Shadeism and I knew exactly what he was saying or what he was implying, I was kind of shocked, but I kind of like cover it with like a shy laugh, like, what? And then just try to play it off.
Well, when I was 5, my parents took me to West Africa, and I got darker. And then when I came back, my mom was kind of like giving me all these, you know, lotions, these type of lotions that would kind of make me lighter. I didn't really know about it till I was probably like 13 or whatever. And when I found out, I was really angry. I was like, "Mom, what's going on?" And she's just like, "I don't want you to be that skin color, you know, you're too dark. I'm not that dark, and I don't want you to be that dark." That really hurts, so, but, you know, I like my skin tone.
That can be painful. If you're the darkest person in your family, it can be painful to be reminded about that. Or flip that, you can be the lightest person in your family and fall in love with somebody darker and be told you can't marry him because he's too black. And if y'all have babies, your children will be too black. Here's a cousin we would prefer for you to marry and have children with, because at least we know that bloodline and we can have some assurance about what those children are going to look like. So ultimately, there's definitely the kind of macro system in terms of the institutions and the systems that make us feel the effects of colorism. But I tell people all the time, I feel like some of our earliest lessons and the most painful lessons we get from our family.
There's no point of having team light skin and team dark skin. It's just, why are you choosing which team you're on when we're all like, we're not all the same shade, but we're all one race. What is the point of isolating ourselves? We should be all together.
You know, I don't find team light skin, team dark skin funny. Like, I get people's intention, some people's intention. You know, I do take some time when I'm on Twitter or I'm on social media, Instagram, I'll search the hashtags just to see what's up there. And oftentimes, you see the jokes, but more often than not, I just see people trying to identify. And so for me, that's the question, right? So now that you put team light skin up there, what do you want me to know about you? Right? What's different about you than the person who uses team dark skin? Like, there's an assumption that runs through these hashtags that people aren't talking about, and it's something that's understood within our community that if I put team light skin, I am of value.
Now, when I think about it, why should I care if people say, yeah, you're ugly and you're dark skinned?
Until I started learning more about myself and who I am as a person, and my cultural and my background and my African roots, and just learning about those things, I think now my perception of beauty has changed.
It helped for me to learn the history. It helped for me to have language for it so that it wasn't just about me personally. It helped for me to know that there were other women who were having this experience. It helped for me to know that it was bigger things at play. While I would love to say, let's go to the store right now and let's get a magazine with a sister that looks just like you on the cover, odds are we may not find her. But there's a magazine somewhere right? So maybe you got to go find it, or maybe you got to create it.
It's just up to you and how you see yourself and how you judge yourself. I think you should define beauty for yourself. And if you think straight hair and being skinny is beautiful, then that works for you. But if I think my kinky hair is beautiful and my dark skin is beautiful, then that works for me, and then I should accept that and welcome that.
Right now, the project that I'm working on, it's ongoing. It's called Pretty Period. And it is a, just in title, it is a response to the often backhanded compliment that we get, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl. The compliment, which is not a compliment, has always bothered me, because at the core of that compliment is the presumption that dark-skinned women aren't beautiful, so that I must somehow stand as the exception to that rule. And for me, I've always wanted to do something within this conversation on colorism that's just affirmative. And so Pretty Period, actually, I'm enjoying that a lot, and I'm hoping that it's something that will provide some healing for so many of us, thinking of my younger self, thinking of so many young sisters that I've come into contact with, so many mothers who thank me for doing the work. It seems very simple to me, but I recognize how absolutely impactful it is, just in the simplicity of showing our images and saying that's beauty.
Every shade is beautiful. You just have to embrace it.
The shade of your skin does not define your beauty and worth.
We lost our names and became colors.
Don't throw shade on your shade.